So welcome to the conversation with seasoned scholars. In this episode, with us, we have Professor Prosun Bhattacharya. He is a professor of groundwater chemistry and coordinator of KTH International Groundwater Arsenic Research Group at the Department of Sustainable Development, Environmental Science and Engineering at KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Stockholm, Sweden. He has been, I many times call him a living legend because many people who is working on arsenic field in the groundwater have grown up looking and reading his paper, and his contribution to the developing countries, even if he was based in Sweden, his work on Ganga floodplains and also the Bangladesh has been immensely cited. Of course, since January 2020, he is appointed as affiliate scientist at the KWR Water Cycle Research Institute in the Netherlands. And he is leading with SIDA, funded bilateral research capacity building program between Sweden and Tanzania. He has a lot of other projects with industrial importance, and out of that, this sustainable arsenic mitigation SASMIT community-driven initiative to target arsenic safe groundwater as sustainable mitigation strategy in Bangladesh has been one of the key program, and a lot of good outcome has come up. Over, nearing 15,000 citation, H index 60, I-10, the reaching 200. These are some of the things which is not or cannot be enough to measure his contribution or what he has achieved. He has been graduate of Delhi University, and then he established himself as the renowned person. This event and this invitation we sent him also to celebrate his award that he has been given just this year in 2021. He received prestigious George Burke Magzi Distinguished Service Award given by the Geological Society of America. So these are some of the so that we want to congratulations Professor Bhattacharya. Of course, I have I always call you sir or da, but and you have been a mentor. Most of my audience or the other people know it. So then let's start the conversation with you. Many congratulations for the award. Although we want, like you said, like you know, that this is three parts of the conversation. One part will be where we will be discussing about your journey and motivation. The second part will be your philosophy and how to say the suggestion or the to the young breeds, and then the third part will be being human part, where we will try to be close with you and try to know what is your likes, dislikes, what drinks you prefer, and so on and so forth. One more thing that he is editor-in-chief of Groundwater for Sustainable Development and Elsevier Journal, and serving as associate editor for several other journals as well. So welcome, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much, Manish, for your kind invitation, first and foremost, to this seasoned scholar program which you are coordinating. And I really thank you very much for picking me up on this platform to start with. As Manish rightly said, that I've been groomed at the Department of Geology, and my professors D.M. Banerjee and Mihir Deb were my idols that time. And I used to see them and they're going abroad, bringing writing papers and things. I was just used to dream, when will I be doing this? Can I ever do it or not? The proof printing. So that was the right sort of buzzing which came out right from my MSc when I started. And just to know that we were so keen of working with Professor D.M. Banerjee. So D.M. Banerjee was the most top star supervisor, especially for our batch. So this was just to give you an instance of what sort of dynamic charisma Professor Banerjee used to have that had, so that one can follow his footprints to put forward. So I would like to put my deepest sense of regards and respect that he has put in that emphasis on me so that I can move forward. But of course, given you can only get idea, but the things is that you have to move with the learnings yourself. So that's the thing. So we need to move forward, and that's one thing which I've got from my heritage with Professor Banerjee. So now it's up to my students who have to move forward.
Yeah, so let's go to the part A, where can you briefly explain, of course, you have started with your journey and being grateful to your teachers. That is really nice. How about, can you briefly let us know about your journey in your own words? You can say something about your milestones on the way that you cherish the most.
Actually, to start with, I mean, a researcher is not, research is developed by practice. So if I talk about research, you do start doing research right from your master's level. So the MSc, when you start doing, you do write a thesis. So that thesis encompasses some sort of individual study based on research. So that's the thing. So if that building stone is perfect, so then you know that there's this sort of technique which you are learning is going to print results. So choosing the right appropriate technique, right self-reliancy is important right from the first step. And that here I would like to emphasize another of my mentors, my Professor Mihitev's words, and that this has to be nurtured right from the budding stage. So this was his quote, which I still remember. That was in 1984. He used to say that these things has to be nurtured right from the budding stage. So as a budding stage scientist, is try to always look into, okay, I read in the manuscript, in the articles, and I try to decide what is the current trends in research. For example, I was working on Precambrian sediments, right? Professor Banerjee gave me a topic of understanding the Precambrian conglomerates in Rajasthan in MSc. And when I talk with other colleagues in the department, I tried to convert that sedimentological problem into structural geological problem. So then Professor Banerjee was a bit intrigued by that. So this was not a project which was linked with sedimentology, but I'm trying to do structures. So idea should be yours, but it has to be endorsed to your supervisor and his interests. It's not that the supervisor should discourage individual work, so a person who is working on his own. So I think this is very important for each and every young scientist to start working independently. Thanks.
So I mean, if I will put it the other way, that why did you become a scientist, and when did you think that you thought that, oh, PhD is on your way? I mean, because you wanted to do PhD since graduation or before graduation, like that.
When I started doing MSc, then that was the time when I started thinking about, yes, is the track on which my supervisor is working, is it a good track to follow? Number one, what are the uncertainties? And at that time, we didn't have. On the other side, you have your pressure from your group, batchmates, friends, so those who are going into the competitions, getting into the different jobs, and then you finally find that you are only alone at the department. Okay, but then again, we got a project to start with on the Precambrians of Rajasthan, so we were also very fortunate that we got junior research fellowship out of the research project and started working. So then you don't feel that you are not, so that you don't have a feeling that you are not employed. Okay, so that sort of self-dependency automatically is there. So it means that you're working. So you're working on something which you like. Now again, working on a project which is not written by you, I still feel myself I'm very strongly on this point. I mean, if you don't have designed a project yourself, you don't own the project. So so then what happens that you become directed for at each and every step by your supervisor or the persons who have written that project, right? So you don't drive that project yourself. So that's the difference. So what happened when I started working in the DST sponsored project in 1985? So I got directly the project from to GRF, but then I started thinking that let me go. I went to Belavika Cement in Satna for 4 months. For 1 month, then Dr. Banerjee, he told him, Prosun, you don't resign from your fellowship, but you go there, feel it there, and then you can decide later. And then, of course, just after 15 days, I came back to Delhi from Satna. So that was my dedication towards or interest towards research. Then I thought, this type of job is not for me. So I want to continue with where we have more academic freedom and working freedom, rather not academic freedom. That comes later. But the freedom you work on things which you like, which you want to develop or explore.
So I mean,
that's something.
So what I could get it is that yeah, like a lot. I mean, unless until maybe if your son would have been pursuing a career, you might have asked him that, okay, doing PhD might be a good option or good name and fame. But most of us are like the in general, you what you wanted to become, you just you let me know that, and after 10th, what you wanted to become, after 10 plus 2, what you wanted to become, after graduation, what you wanted to become, and then after master, you already talked that once you have entered into the master and get into the close to your supervisor, you came to know that this is a way.
So okay, first engineering, medical, and then you come to the department. Then thought of something. Why not to study some subject which we have never studied? Okay, so like geology, for example. Geology was never taught in the department.
Yeah, so if it would click about that, I like this that you have told that rituals, that filling up the engineering forms or doctor form, medical forms has been the ritual through that progression, because this is a very simple answer is that every 10 plus 2 pass out person probably wants to become an engineer or doctor. But of course, very few. And nowadays, today, Professor Chandan Mahanta, I had a conversation with, and he was telling that nowadays he read in the SOP that, oh, I was a very special child, and I was people who were my friends were playing game, and I was looking at the water and soil. So whether you were that kind of person that knew that, oh, I am born to do PhD and become a scientist, or your journey has been the similar that
no, not really.
So of course,
I would still exactly. That's but I think for me it was not very clear that yes, what I will do. Your fellow students, your classmates, how they are behaving, how they are moving out. Couple of students who are getting right after the BSc, getting into the defense services, getting into there. So I mean, it's trying to getting settled. That was the main thing. So now the question of settling comes. When it comes to settling, then of course you are in a disadvantaged position. The moment you join a PhD, you're not in an advantageous position. So we started with the junior research fellowship of 800 rupees. Can you imagine that one?
I am from the 8,000 group generation. We used to receive 8,000, and by the time we left, it became no 8,000 only. The last two I
was actually exactly, but I was trying to tell you that I mean once you are working on, we were actually discussing about this JRF, this research project where I worked. Then that project was for 6 months. So I completed that one, and then I thought, this won't be could finance my PhD. So again, I have to get back and seek funding from home, to support my PhD studies that time. So then, of course, then there were some new calls came out for senior research fellowship. So, and that really locked me that yes, I must apply for a project. I must write a project on my own, which can fetch me a funding, secured funding. And that was the start where I designed my own project. It was not my supervisor who wrote a project for me. I wrote it myself. And that was through how I started looking into the, I was fascinated by crustal evolution, geochemistry and crustal evolution. That was my, and that was very trendy that time. Then you have to take that trend, like it's simply like clothing, research is like clothing. You have to wear that apron, which is the trend, right? You have to show that you are in the same apron. So that's what is research. Because otherwise, if you do a non-trending research, it was not. So then they obviously then it became that, yes, in Mukunraj Bhatia, they were working on a sedimentary suite in Australia, 4 different suites in Australia. And I was just thinking, yes, let's work. We are working on Aravalli. Can't we really apply the similar concept here? So can we do that? Then I asked a process manager, sir, I want to do this. So this sounds logical, so you can continue. So we can apply for a project proposal for a senior research fellowship. Luckily enough, it got clicked. I wrote that proposal and it got clicked. So now that gave me a tremendous boost of writing. So that was the turning point, that where you can design your
so actually
my next work.
My next question was that what are some few turning points of your career, but still I am, and of course you have explained that you have been like journey goes like that, but probably you were explaining about a physics teacher and that geology was not being taught at your department and that's why you choose. So my question is that how did you choose your PhD research area and PhD topic finally?
Yes, I mean, one thing was choosing geology as a graduate subject of graduation was also quite interesting because geology and anthropology, they were the only 2 subjects which gave us opportunity to be enrolled at the university campus, affiliated to the institution or the departments, university department. And then, and more importantly, we had only 12 students. No, I think there were 20 students who could actually, maximum intake number of students were 20 per year. So it's a very restricted number of graduates who pass out, which means that probability of you getting settled is much higher than any other subject who passes out from the department, so that you have a good chance that you settle down in your own discipline. But then again, the question was that I mean, considering the jobs, the first thing, engineer, doctor, then if you do a general degree, honors degree, then you try to see, if you want to get into the IAS, IFS or like this. So that is one track. And if you, so many people do that way, that you get enrolled in the university departments and then you pursue your trials on the academic, in the industry, academic, administrative services, and then we come back, can't do research parallelly. But for my case, it was not. I mean, I was never interested in academic administrative services or even the National Geological Services either. I took one exam and I got to the interview just to satisfy my parents that I can do it. So it's not that you are not joining that. It's not like the grapes are sour. So no, that's concept, So you don't get the grapes, so your grapes. It's not that. You got a chance, you got to the interview, faced the interview, but still I thought, no, I'm not going to join this job. So now I feel that yes, and of course, then you on the other hand, pressure mounts on your parents also. What this guy is going to do if he's not going into services? Can he really get into the? I mean, getting in the university lecturership is the second priority. So that's automatically becomes so. But still, it was not. I mean, it is so much.
So how did you fight with those things? I mean, against the your parents' wishes and something like that. So here I would like to, before you answer to that, I would also like to know that which part did you born and where you spent your the childhood or your high schooling, and what were your parents?
Okay, just to give you my background. I was born in Delhi, so I'm a born Delhiite. during the period. And my mother, she was actually a musician, and she was an Indian classical music artist and working on an A grade artist. She was performing on radio and television all the time. And
Wow.
yes, that was another, yes. And I also wanted her to be right on top. But one thing that she was always obsessed that yes, if I'm performing well, people will come and recognize me directly. So I don't want to advertise myself. So although I tried to push her during that time, that was another thing. How you push her. So she was, and she was also a music teacher. So we used to have a lot of influx of her students used to come and learn music at home. So I was born and brought up in a musical environment. So all the time it was musical rhythms and this keeps on humming all around.
Mm-hmm. And what about your father?
And even when the day I was born, my mother was having a radio program which she could not let do.
So musical. And what about your father? So you studied in Delhi
And my
itself?
father was a central government employee, and he was working in the department in the DGSND in Ashok Road, and he was in the Ministry of what is called in rehabilitation and what Purti Mantralaya. What is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And then
your
he
high
was
school.
also in working, and then he went to National Institute of Health and Family Welfare on deputation.
If we just little bit, how many siblings you have? I mean, the brother and sister.
Yeah, I have one sister. She's also a researcher, and she did her PhD in anthropology, social anthropology.
Wow. So you took geology,
right
and she took anthropology. So I mean, the both.
Interesting enough, I also started with anthropology, to be honest.
Yes. So I mean, so that's how your schooling and schooling happened in Delhi, right? And then, so why didn't you go for JNU? I mean, the doing PhD, because we know that there are several Jawaharlal Nehru University. I mean, once you have. No, you did DU, but my question is that many people after doing masters from DU may go to do PhD from JNU. So did you had that kind of thinking, or that okay, should I change the university?
No,
or
actually
maybe
not.
Yeah, maybe because you found your guru, so you didn't want to change.
I was so much obsessed by my guru.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Professor Banerjee, I mean, yes, and he was really. I mean, I would say that I would give him a grade 10 out of 10 as a guru.
Turning point or defining moment in your career as teacher, scientist, and guide. I mean, when you think that okay, that is so. We recall that once you went to the department because you wanted to affiliate it from the university, and so you choose anthropology or geology, and then you met Professor Banerjee, and after that, everything changed. After that, the PhD, what are some defining moments? Did you marry before your PhD or after your PhD? Did you, why you decided to settle abroad?
Yes. Well, that is also another more stories around that, because just after getting my PhD, I got a position at the same day at the Department of Geology, where in the same department I worked as a research associate. This was a faculty research associate position. And that was also a competitive interview with many applicants, and where I got selected. But in the meanwhile, got into the relationship through arranged marriage, and she was staying in Sweden that time. And she comes from Bangladesh. Okay. So now for her to come and settle in India is also a foreign country as compared to where she was here in Stockholm, in shipping then. So then that was also a foreign country. But she was better settled here than in India, for example. So then I thought, and then I was just thinking that, yes, should I go there? Then I asked Professor Banerjee what to do. Then he thought that I would be the same case as I did it previously after my MSc, that I went there, stayed there for 10, 15 days and came back. Then I because coming to Sweden, especially in a country where you cannot speak the language. And I mean, in 1991, if you don't know English in Sweden, you cannot communicate with anything. You are not your degrees do not really count much. But then I had to learn the Swedish language. I had to start from the scratch, everything to build up to a level where I could come up, where I actually finished in India. So this journey, so it was from August 1991 up to maybe when I first contacted, and then when I met my current mentor, Professor Gunnar Jacks. So these were the milestones and milestone persons. We made the DM Banerjee, then Gunnar Jacks, three persons. So Gunnar Jacks, that because Gunnar had a long-term association with India, he knew about the depth of academics in India. He had worked with people in India. He could know that yes, what a student from India can do, and also what can be what he can expect out of me. Perhaps I mean he was also modest, so even if so that was a turning point to meeting Gunnar Jacks in Stockholm and talking
and also
to him.
Meeting, and why Sweden? Because of the relationship.
But because of the relationship, and she was based here, so I didn't want to say that yes, it was
So
also
where did you meet her?
I didn't meet her. It was through an arranged marriage through newspaper advertisement.
Oh, so you got so after marriage you were thinking of the shifting, or during I mean when it
No,
is
actually,
kind of...
I got another offer in Sweden as well. And that was when it was with Professor Roland Gorbachev, and that was in University of Lund. So that when he was on, and that was again through the connection with Professor Dave was negotiating. So that was through a Swedish Institute fellowship. So then the question came that since if I'm getting, I mean, then obviously if I'm coming to Sweden, my parents wanted that I should get married and then come out.
Oh, okay.
So then that was the turning point. Now the next question came automatically with Professor, because we were all set that I can join there in Lund without any problem. But then when you come here with a different residence status, then you are not competing as a visiting scholar there. Okay, so you are in the local domestic job market. Okay, so for that position, so then he was a bit reluctant person that you're not coming here as a regular visiting scientist. So it will be slightly difficult. These were his wordings. So it will be slightly difficult to justify your duty. How can I induct you? So then I thought, okay, fine. Because then at the same time, it was because in 1991, it was a global decline on geology related sciences, because it was very difficult to get positions. Even in India also, it was not that good during that time. And of course, in Sweden, and moreover, when you talk about the language, if you cannot speak the language, then it was in a very difficult and very tough situation. At some point of time, I was thinking that yes, how should I really do? I mean, what's thing? And it was that, and at some point of time, it was also a question that whether whether I should go back to India. But then, how should I go back? Why should I go back? And what will be the implications if I go back? So there's so many questions. So then I thought. Then I met in 1993. I met Professor Gunnar. Talked to him, Professor Jacks, I think it was in September. I finally managed to talk with him, and then he said, "Yes, you can start. Come and join KTH." So that was the entry point.
Actually, that is also the outcome that I can draw is that 2-3 things. One is that so far, if I may say, is that you wanted to somehow be out of crowd always, and that is why you went to the anthropology or geology. You yourself told that you wanted to join. You actually joined anthropology, but then changed to this one. Then you have been a good, devoted pupil to your gurus, because and that's why you always had blessings of them. What I have felt, or I can summarize from your whatever you have said, and giving 10 out of 10, you know that one very big person who is handling a big institute, you keep telling us that what you think of others is the reflection of what that person is think of you. If you are giving 10 out of 10 to your gurus, it means that they are also had that kind of value for you as well. I can that theory. So it means you were a good pupil for your master guide, PhD guide, and of course the three gurus that you have told. But the lesson that comes out is that you probably were never shy of saying that what you need and what you can do and what cannot work. So that is, yeah. So is it? I mean, if it is not right, you can, of course, object me, because my
actually,
point.
I mean, it was again a learning thing. I remember some of you small incidents that when we talk about. In the master's level, when I was writing the master thesis, was this again coming back to how we used to write the exam paper and answer sheets. So you start when you use that same logic and template of writing research thesis. So I don't know what is the situation today, but then all the time our emphasis, of course, for geology students it was another very interesting thing. We used to write the field reports, the field report books, where you do a sort of a, that when you go to the field, right? And then I used to write those reports, get them typed, stenciled, and then you quite thick reports, so you make it in a very rosy way that you describe things. I still have those reports in Delhi. So, and they were used to be almost at part, like, bound like master dissertations and all, field reports, master.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we're using the same analogy. When I started writing thesis, then Dr. Banerjee was a bit irritated at the first time. And once he just strike off the entire page. Why write? His comment was, why write unnecessary things repeatedly? And then he just threw over the paper. So then that was the thing. Then I was a bit dejected. What is happening? And this is how always we used to write. So at that time I was not so much professionally prepared either. Then I had one of my lab mates, Debashish Singh Roy. He doesn't live any longer. But Debashish he used to be, Prosun, don't worry, let's start to. Then he helped me writing, that sort of thing. So these are some of the very small piece of work, and we got so much of inter-department laboratory help during that time when as an inexperienced people. So this was, by that you learned many things, that what were the basic deficiencies we used to have, this writing repeatedly the things. So, but these are not things which are not to be thrown away, but these are all learnings which we bring forward, as a new progress. So that's nothing
So
that if a teacher says something that you didn't know. Teacher, of course, if he doesn't say that it is bad, then it is bad. Then if somebody else other than your teacher says something, then it is bad. If your teacher says it to you, it's a blessing.
Yeah, very nice. Actually, this point I want to highlight is that until your people, your teacher, and even your family, or even your near dear ones keep telling you about your, the shortcomings, then means you are at right track, and they still love you and they still care for you. The day they stop, you should be worrying about. We should be worrying about that. So the point that I was trying to make, because the idea of this program is to withdraw some points that can be used today for the people who are doing PhD or pursuing research or academics or so and so forth. So what I can see, and here, you know, that, so you married after PhD, right?
Yeah.
And many people in our time, or like I married before PhD. So, so, um, so what I can, people think that whether what is true, I mean, what is good to do, what I did or what you did. So but what I can see is that you could, you are established in one of the most beautiful country, because I know Sweden was the first country I visited abroad and lived longer time. Actually, I got a flight. I traveled by flight first time out of the India for Sweden, and so I love that country. This is one of the most beautiful country in the Scandinavian the zone. And the point is that you had to live. You lived there your entire life. Your family lives there. Um, and this happens because you followed your heart also, and also the queen of your heart. So that is, it
Yeah.
means where there is a will, there is a way. I mean, if you want to pursue, like, if you, so that, what is your message in that context, that somebody who is finding long distance relationship or marriage before or after, and in that context?
Yeah, I think yes. I mean, of course, I mean, life means you have to take risks whatsoever. You can. So that's the risk taking. It's like I mean, Dr. Banerjee was very upset when I came back. I just still remember his words also keeps buzzing me. Prosun, you will get a lectureship at the Delhi University. That was his one
You
of
will
his
get
words.
what you will
A
get.
position at, because since I was started at that, a research associate. It was quite, I mean, apparent that that will be upgraded as a new faculty as soon as you have an opening. Okay, and then but you were adequate marketing during your current tenure, because I was given the charge of the catheteroluminescence laboratory at the university scientific, because it was a special assistance program through which this position came to Delhi University. So it was a very strategic investment from and Professor S.K. Tandon, and so he was the head during that time. So it was quite prestigious, and it was quite, even for the department, I felt that it was not a good thing I left Delhi University at that junction, leaving, so that you don't get that expertise and things. So that one, but still, I mean, when you come back, I mean, you have this decision that you will try to come to Sweden and then settle here. Then when I met Professor Gunnar Jacks, then it became the thing that opportunities comes only once. That is my own top word. You get the opportunity only once. It will never replicate. If you want to make things out of this opportunity, you must do it then. You have to give everything to it. So I got this position working on the fluoride project in Nagaur with Professor Jacks. And that project was also not for me. That was actually written for another to be doctoral student. So then it was a blessing for me that I got into that. And in 1994 October, so I went to India for fluoride sampling, and that with there were a couple of people, Professor Gunnar Jacks's old the CGWB companions, whom I had met, and did some sampling in Nagaur and other areas. So that was in 94. So then it became that, yes, started looking into the fluoride in groundwater systems and fluoride in the soils, in the soil profile, and understanding the mobilization mechanisms. So that one was the first turning point. We started working with fluoride. So, and then if I do that work good, at the same time, 1995, 96, we started working. Then I got a visit from Professor Debashish Chatterjee from University of Kolkata to go to
Yeah. So I
Stockholm.
mean, the here I would like to just say that yeah, I wanted your opinion on that. The If somebody will ask you, yeah, you have told that risk. You said that you have to take risk, but how? And I understand marriage is a risk. So when to take this risk, during PhD or after PhD?
It depends actually. During PhD, you can do it because if you're, I mean, right now and then it was a different, because if you have a financial stability, then I think there is no problem. It can be done.
Mm-hmm.
As
Other,
long as, I mean, you have this, as long as if you are supporting yourself. So right now, there's not much of difference. Because if you think of it in terms of, yes, you are temporarily stable, you can really take care of your own lives, you can spend well, you can do well. Of course, I mean, at that level, when you are doing a PhD, your focus should be on the work. So when you are focusing on the work, you're together, so then it's not a problem.
yeah. I mean,
I
of
mean, in the
course,
end,
with this program, we want to bring some of the diverse ideas of the people who have already gone through ahead, and so that some leaf of advice can be taken. You have already talked about the turning points and like that, but about how did you get a job in Sweden, a guru in Sweden? But when did you think that you become a legend, or when did you thought that okay, now it's done? I mean, now I am reaching to the people, I am known, I am getting big, and something like that.
to be
Yeah, could you
honest, I
please?
don't feel like that I'm really big or small in that way. I mean, I feel that there's so many things yet to do. So I just think that when I will complete those things, how much time? When it's not that, I mean, when you cannot think that you are big, then if you really think that you're done, then things stop. Then nothing beyond that point. That's what I always try to say, even at home also. That I mean now, I mean, the contest comes when you're actually talking both at home or with the relatives and things, that you're working so hard. So what about your life and how health, etc., etc. So now you are already crossed a certain age limit, so you might try to be more health conscious and not to over. There is a need. There's so many things to do, because this is the time when this your experience comes, and this experience has to be implemented. Because otherwise, I mean, we have taken so much of time has come. We have taken this time to gain those experience. Now we have to implement those experiences in new fields, in the required fields. So that's the question. I mean, if I don't do it, who else will do it? Then it will happen again, and another set of person will come. With growing experiences, and then if they slow down, then net progress will be zero. So that's the thing
Yeah.
which comes with. That's again coming back to the science and things. You generate. So that's why it's why in Sweden, for example, even in India now, academicians have in the age of 65 now. There is a huge amount of question which is being discussed in the parliament, Swedish parliament, that is it that 65 is the right age to people to retire?
So it should be
Because
more than that.
it should be more than that, because at 65, as a professor, you are really getting that essence that yes,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are. So if you stop working at that zenith of your life or career, so does that really bring good for the country, good for the academic institution where you're working? So so that this is a thing. Actually, I think KTH has been suffered from because of this thing. So now, I think from 2027, when I'll be retiring, there is a new dimension that yes, you can continue few more years.
Yeah, that's why maybe emeritus scientists and those programs are there,
No,
but
not
still.
emeritus. In this case, it is the problem with emeritus is that you don't get the it's just a name,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
I
the
know. I
status,
mean, you
but you
cannot
don't
guide
have the
a student.
administrative power.
You cannot
But
have the
here, what
PI.
I'm striving is we should.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I understood your perspective, but my point is that it's time to move on, or move a little bit more towards
yeah,
from emeritus to little bit more active. Of course, not. And I understand that I can see even when I come to this side of the 40, and now I know that how my mind works and how the ideas comes. And I know that once I will be 50 plus or 60 plus, if I will have chance to become, then those times this becomes a jukebox, and you will have, because you calculate fastly, you understand the problem fastly, even if and then you try to identify the real problem very quick, and you know that which technique has to be implemented. So in that sense, I think this is quite rational. Going to that, actually, so when you thought that this is you being humble, that you are not big or small, but when you thought that, or a sense of some that, okay, I am not doing bad came, or in other words, if I would like to ask, what has been the most productive period in your research career and why?
See, I mean, I have to get back out of this question again. I mean, you don't become famous just because of yourself, because you have to get affiliated with so many people, right? Like, for example, we have been, right, 1999 and 2000, when we first organized that International Geological Congress and the first pre-Congress workshop on, what on arsenic in sedimentary aquifers. Okay, so that was the first turning point of turning out towards the
Which year?
international arena. Okay, that was the first step, into 2000 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And then it was a country where, again, you don't know the language, you don't know the culture. I mean, this was absolutely a wild world, trying to get out to, at that time we used to have this flight called Varig, Brazilian flight. So Varig was the airline. So we went, me and Gunnar, we two went. Gunnar, I used to take Gunnar all the time, so that as a both as a moral support and also as a technical, some sort of a heavyweight with me. who could really do, I mean, recognize in the field, and also could really give very fantastic advices all the time. So have this, you have to live and learn from these legendary people all the time, And then during the Brazil meeting, I also invited Professor Banerjee. He was also there at that in the pre-Congress workshop in Brazil in 2000. So these, and so then and in the same conference, I've also got introduced to Professor Joshin Bunshu. Although Professor Bunshu, he could not come to the Congress because of some travel issues, or I think financial issues. So, but he said that I'm sorry, but I think, and he was all the time pushing me, Prosun, what is happening? Are you following up on anything? So, and then that was the start of my interaction with Professor Bunshu. The first one was Professor Chatterjee on arsenic. Second one was Joshin Bunshu. I think my career owes a lot of things to these two persons altogether. One person who introduced me to the field of arsenic, and Joshin Bunshu, who introduced me to the field of arsenic fluoride, and Latin America in the whole region per se. So these, I think, my accomplishment will remain blank without, if I don't acknowledge these two persons. And then thirdly, if I say, even for you, Manish, and then Professor Ramanathan, we had this work together in 2006. So, I mean, without you people and Manish, your wastewater-based epidemiology, my last work. So I think you people own a lot. And then Jackaria, who was my first PhD student, with him I learned how to really integrate science with soft science issues. So Jackaria was my student, but I also learned many things from him. So it was a it was what do you call it? It was a twin track bilateral, but give and take. There's a specific word which I'm forgetting right now. So that, I mean, that way you move forward. So that's the thing.
Yeah, very nice. And actually, I want to touch those areas so that to get your get your very honest opinion coming out. That's why. So I understood that after 2000, and it has been a productive period, and you have given a lot of, and connecting me with those string and epidemiology, it says that you are still productive, and you are you do not change your perception that the person should work for a trending research and should find that what can I help in with that. So you have told me that you opted your research topic or research area thinking that in mind while doing PhD. And now at this moment, after when you are almost going to be a 60 years next year, you are going to complete 60.
Yeah.
You are still thinking about the trending and that what is the biggest problem at that time, at this project. So getting to this question, what do you think that the world have the challenge, top 3 challenges at present or in next decade?
Well, if you talk about the challenges, the drinking water will be one of the major challenge. The only challenge with how do we really make so the billions of people drink water, which is drink. So that is a huge challenge which we need to address on a radical front. So, and to me, as I feel, it's equally important whenever, I mean, together with the buzz of climate change, we need to this because climate change and water resources, these two are very closely interlinked. So we need to burn for clean drinking water. So that's the buzz. So and then clean, when you talk about clean drinking water, we need to really try to, I mean, we need to solve the problems. Okay. So before we take up a new issues altogether, because we see, for example, in India, this groundwater fluoride issue, which is covering up a major part of the country where we have high fluoride drinking water sources. And we know it, we just radically implement some projects with not so much of rigor, you know. By rigor, I mean that the practice of like the thing which I'm preaching right now, drinking water safety planning, management, and all. So these are the aspects which we need to really move forward and try to really quantify. We have the information, water resource information system, water quality information system. If you think about the drinking water supply chain and the management, so you see that how do we resource area monitoring, then treatment technology monitoring, the distribution network monitoring, and up to the consumer tab. So these are the 4 things. So we need to see in a very holistic approach. So to me, a research and implementation, it's not that we have not done any research. There have been some significant research on all topics, but this is a time when we need to take a stock at them, what research information we have and how do we move forward. So that's my yesterday's talk at MS University of Baroda was all the how do we really manage this big data. So we have the research institutions, research organizations, and the survey organization, Geological Survey of India, and then the Central Groundwater Board. So they have so much of database, so much of water-related data. But what are these? How do we really use this data? Is it that this data can be only, we see the few publications which are coming up from public domain databases. So but then what next? What happens? Who is using those data? How do we take care of those data? Can we really do a real-time setting up a real-time monitoring network so that we know that what people are drinking and what is the quality? So this is our responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So this is one thing which is most important to me.
Yeah. So actually, do you think such scenario is going to change, or in next 10 years, the scenario or the challenges of the world will be different?
It will be different to some extent, but it's exactly like what happened with the MDG shifting up to SDG. For example, we're talking about safe drinking water. Safe drinking water was the main initial initiative, but then they could target and end up with safely managed drinking water sources. You know, So it was not also not safe drinking water sources, but safely managed drinking water. So that you have to patch up with some sort of a interim status. Right now, even I think in SDG it is a bit better because here we have these indicators. So and then these indicators are very easy to monitor, so that we know that what are the specific indicators and how the national governments are giving those numbers. So then, but then again, there's a question which comes that how do we really, what is the mechanism of gathering those data, and who, and then that is what again what we talk about, how much how can we really increase or enhance the reliability of the data sets, what we are actually delivering. So reliability of the data, so on down. So that is where digital information system or digitalization is very important, which we also discussed during our Arsenic Congress this time, so that how digital information system will strongly influence and improve the general status of towards the so-called as achieving the sustainability in this sector.
Yeah. So thank you very much, because yeah, this question has been a little bit thoughtful, and this particular question was of part B, that is philosophy and the trouble-setting lessons and like that. So now we have started the part B, and that was the first question you already answered. The second question is that what is it about science that interests you the most?
It's a very tricky question, Manish, because when you talk about science, that how much original science we are actually.
Yeah. So actually, if I would tell you about
science.
Yeah, about me is that I feel that science is I mean, the many times I say to my student that technology and engineering is a child, science is a father, and music and philosophy or arts, that is grandfather. So the science, I mean, is the which gets converted and helps us to identify the process, identify the problems, and then, of course, hint us about the solution. Solution get materialized in terms of engineering and technology, but the science gives us like just by definition, it says that any systematic knowledge is a science, and that could be anything. So
I would say that yes. I mean, I was trying to link up with science right from my initial research. I mean, my PhD research. Mm-hmm. Where we used to have the science was, I mean, there was a knowledge, so-called. So if you really simply translate science as a knowledge, we have been doing applied science, right? In general, so we knew that for example, arsenic science. So there are now we are actually trying to understand the system. So yes, that is science. Science is understanding the systems in a robust manner, in a simplistic manner, so that we can start looking into that. What are the variables? What are the right? For example, if we're talking about, when I used to do hydrogeochemistry, okay, so then the question comes that looking into the anion cations in groundwater. This is because water is a product. So when you do the science to understand what is the composition, and then you come into the water, what is that factor that is deriving this composition is derived of? Okay, so that's science.
Yeah. So in that case, what is your daily work motivation?
Well, right now, I mean, in general, the motivation comes with I mean, in this digital world, you are always being chased. You can never forget about things which is not on your table. You get prompts all the time through emails, through other media like WhatsApp or anything. So you try to get. So my quest here in the question comes, yes, right now the major what are the, so I mean, we need to do some unfinished work. For me, unfinished work is, of course, the enhancing private sector capacity in Bangladesh, and then we have this SARS-CoV-2, some major works together with ICT DRB, so those type of works, and then And of course, then we also have this motivation in general is to come up with some new things.
Citation, the papers or H index. What motivates you? Come on, please. It's
actually H factor is not a H factor is also H factor, you know.
yeah.
It's not, the question comes at how do we think about these things? Is it really contemporary? How many? To me, it's important. It's not a static thing. It should be a long-term sustained thing. So here also the sustainable development goals must be embedded. You know, it's to be a long.
Actually, Professor Mahanta has told me that I asked him about the challenges. And he said that maintaining the same reputation, same thing for a concept for longer time of period is the biggest challenge of an academician life.
I mean, it's easy to be on a zenith, but maintaining on a zenith, it's like that's the trouble, you know. So keep it there, so that without the sun being setted, even as if you think about the sun, it also goes down and suddenly it sets. To me, the setting means that you are no longer living. Okay.
Wow. Good. I mean, so coming to this one is that, so what keeps you motivated? What is your leisure time? When you are not working, what you are doing?
Actually, right now I was actually cutting my lawns, and I mean, this is again motivation from my wife, because she, I mean, this also gives a lot of summer energy, you know. Working on the lawns, taking care of.
So lawns and those things. Of course, I would ask you more.
To give her, it's again a supportive role, not a leading role, supportive role.
So I will ask you more about that, your hobbies and like that. But when did you become got something bigger role in journals, and how did you open a journal, and how is your editorial experience?
It was 2008 when we had 2006 we had the International Groundwater Conference in JNU, and just after that when we launched our Groundwater Society, International Society of Groundwater for Sustainable Development, and then we thought about we should launch a journal. So we had checked with the CRC Press, and then there were some it was got reviewed, and then they turned it down. So for us, it stopped there, you know. Then neither we had time or discussion, or so we were busy in so many other things. And suddenly, in June 2014, I got a mail from Elsevier that you had in your society, we know about this society, so I think we will be interested if we want to launch a new journal in collaboration with your society. But then I suddenly remembered, and it reminded me, oh yeah, we had that initial proposal to be submitted. So Deirdre Dunn from Elsevier, she called me. Deirdre, I have that document. Can I send the same document? I don't have time to work on it right now. But if you're looking to have a look at that, and then if you need something else, so we can do it. So then I sent it directly to her. Then she said, it looks really fine. So can we set up a contract then? So it went so smoothly. So without any hassle.
Yeah. So I mean, one question that many of young generation might be trying to know from you, that how should they evaluate their own work and choose a journal? What should be the criteria based on which they should select a journal, so that they can avoid more, of course, you cannot avoid rejection foolproof, but so that they can avoid multiple, wasting time and energy on multiple rejection and staying motivated.
If a editor-in-chief who is responsible for desk rejections, so then any new submission which comes from any new name, new arena or new group, they can get rejected. Okay. So now, given that, So I mean, it's really extremely difficult for me as an editor to see that, yes, can we really ridicule this whole work altogether? Because I mean, my first question comes because you need to understand, as an editor, you also need to have that adequate background knowledge and information. You try to see that what project is funding this research. If you see a good acknowledgement to a project which is supporting this. I mean, I'm talking now to you. I have never implemented this, but now I think for desk rejection criteria, it should be there. You must look into the public funding domain, what has actually consumed,
funded it. Yeah.
which has produced this work.
Yeah,
So
that
this
says
respect
something.
the editors. I think, yes, we need to have an editors workshop and knowledge enhancement workshops. It's absolutely necessary across the Elsevier and in all journals. So we need to start up with a project on editors capacity building.
Yeah,
Because we
actually,
are
this is very new concept, and I understand that this makes sense to me, because if there is a, let's suppose, if some funder, if NSF has funded any project or so and so forth, it shows some rigor, right? It shows that some rigor has been done to put up this work, and then only funding has been acquired. However, that is halfway done. But halfway is that even if that funding, but whether they would be able to do that, because at the end of the day, funding agency might be judging the output based on this publication that is coming to me. So if it has come to me and I select it, or I do not put a strict guidelines or the examination criteria, then it's a kind of, we are doing a editorial board or a journal does a kind of a screening and reviewing free of charge from that the group, because the group has applied to a funding agency has agreed to give, but whether the output is good or not, they judge based on the publications, right? So it's kind of hen and chicken.
Yeah, exactly. But my idea here, Manish, is also that that we should actually get this work, get it peer reviewed, so that it says that what the project has promised, and the outcomes, they are at par with each other. So if we don't do that, then if you keeps on changing, so this is a question which really is a burning issues which we need to take up in the future. That are all the publications desired or required? So to what extent we need to publish, and what needs to be, and to what extent these publications need to be scrutinized and not returned. Like, I mean, I talk about from experience in GST. So we have been, because when I started off with the journal, it was really extremely difficult for me to throw away. I mean, like I just discussed about throwing away the piece of paper. So if you think by analogy that, yes, somebody is publishing a paper, so you just throw it away. So then you try to think about, no, this has some value. So can we really do the value additions onto this? So these are some of
Yeah.
the
So, but I understood that you are mostly against desk rejection. You said that if something is there, if some agency has funded a project, it should get a fair chance to be peer reviewed, not the judge or by the
desk rejection, yes. But on the other hand, now we need to set up a criteria for desk rejection. What can be the criteria? If it is a numerical way, then if you have plagiarism for similarity, if it is more than 20%, by a thumb rule, any similarity index more than 20% should be returned back for improvement. Rejected, I mean, outright. So these are the desk rejection criteria. Yes, you are failing to show that your written text is original. So that is a good criteria. What that can be done to any document, whether it is public, whether it is funded or not funded. So fine. That's I fully agree. So just if you cannot comply with the original text, then don't come back. Okay. So, but then there is a objectivity and subjectivity. Now, I mean, you have so much of diversity in the structure of the science, structure of the science, approach of science, to what extent one has to do. It's really a quite a mixed um, theme, you know. So, but again, it's fun to look into others' papers and try to decide the
Yeah.
fate of this.
But how do you choose journal? I mean, for you, journal for publication, whether for me, there is a few criteria that I follow. Is that if I see it is a specialized group, a specialized journal, if I see my work to be value of a specialized people, I would try to choose that journal. If I see my work is of appeal of broad community, then I would choose such kind of journal. The impact factor, yes, I mean, they do keep importance, but sometimes impact factor is not indicator of the even readership or reputation. For instance, if I would give example from our field, hydrogeology journal. Hydrogeology journal is still, I think, around 3. But the publication quality you can see. You can be blind about that. What makes me really feel bad about the publication, that many big journals cannot stop a very mediocre and even below mediocre papers. So that short-circuiting is very hitting for me. Oh, I published here with so much labor, but some paper is so below quality is publishing in the same journal. So that kind of thing makes me worried. And but this hydrogeology journal, irrespective of the impact factor, is highly respected. Similarly, the readership, but however, the readership will be only the core groundwater and the hydrogeology people. So what is your criteria to choose?
Actually, this was a point of discussion, Manish, because when GST came up, we were even Stephen Foster that time. Steve Foster was asking, was talking somewhat to someone that why Prosun is coming up with this new journal, because this is going to be directly competitive to them, you know. But I mean, I had also published in the hydrogeology journal in 2007, and I think I published only one. So, but the question is the rigor which we published our paper in hydrogeology journal. But the overall ambition of the journal, or the idea, becomes, I think, it's solely dependent on the editors and their ambitions and missions also over the journal, which really makes the fate of the journal. But I think sectorally, hydrogeology journal still has a huge role, and it is still one of the pioneering journal in the field.
Yeah.
It should have been developed so, and I think GSD is just a complement to the next edition of it, so that we can actually think in terms of complementary to each other.
Okay, so moving from the publication part, let's come to the.
But I think I didn't answer your question. How do we select the journal? While selecting a journal, I would again see, as I'm talking about the fashion and trends, I would like to see that you need to see the trends, which journals people are mostly consulting, okay, for your paper to be cited or to be read, not to be cited. I mean, at the first instance, you need to read. Now, in a digital world, it doesn't matter actually where you publish. Right, because in previously you have to go to the library, look into the Precambrian research shelf or the Scientific American shelf or some other. Now everything is in your computer, right? So there is a total shift in the paradigm. So you don't have to do that even on the Samsung. Even in digital, you don't have just type the acronym of the journal. So you are there directly, and many times you get automatic feedback that if you're looking into a topic of, you're opening up of a paper by someone, and related publication. You see it automatically. So now the things are so easy for the coming generations.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good message from a big person. I mean, who is associated with very reputed journal. I mean, you are associated editor of hydrology journal, which is also very much respectful in. You have served applied geochemistry, which has. I mean, once I was comparing that journal with hydrogeology journal. Of course, I have seen that it fall. I mean, that it could not pick up, and it could not. I mean. I don't know why the things are lost there. So you have a fair experience, and if that is coming from you, that publishing to the which platform is now no more becomes very critical. If your work is good, and if you want to be read, of course, little bit more credibility it brings in terms of the name, but at the end of the day, it is work. Because you know that I want to tell you this. My the first journal paper was in 2006, international journal paper in Delhi groundwater hydrogeochemistry. There was no isotope data, only major ion chemistry. And this paper has been the most cited paper of everyone's life of that author. I mean, it is the most cited paper of my career. It is the most cited paper of Professor L. Ramanathan career, Dr. Bhism Kumar, Dr. Rao. So whoever was the four of us, it is most highly cited paper of our career. And it is published in environmental geology. When it was published, the impact factor was 0.6. And now that journal has even closed. Now it is being published as environmental earth science. So discontinued, not closed, but discontinued. And now it is being continued. And still every week, I will have 10 citations of that paper. Mostly around that, 5 to 10, the citations are coming. Similarly, in GSD, our one work review on emerging pollutants is reaching 300 citations. So even if, so it means I really concur with your idea that you have told so it means people should target the work and then check that whether the readers can reach to them. What about?
Yes, because Manish, I think another thing which was pondering on my pondering now, when we talk about that, it's actually the content of the paper which matters. You can publish a paper even in a non-impacted journal, but if you think in terms of over a period of years, the attention which this paper is drawing towards the journal, this paper, I mean the content of that paper, is also a long-term sustainable benefit, adds to the benefit. And again, on the same time, if you are publishing in a very high, I have done some specific test cases in ESNT, Environmental Science and Technology, looked into some of the critical papers just by next slide, next paper, like how many times they were how many times they were cited. I was really shocking to see that some of the papers have not even been cited 5 times, although they have been published in ESNT.
Yeah, and how many years ago?
I think these were from 2008, 2009.
Oh, so in significant.
Oh, no. Exactly. So now the question comes in: how can it be so that a person who is publishing in ESNT with a content which has not been of interest to more than 5 people?
Very pertinent question, I guess.
So that is my question: whose responsibility is this to do the marketing? Now, for example, I refer back to the question of Colgate toothpaste. Colgate used to market the toothpaste since 1800s, right? If I'm not wrong. Okay. Now, even in 2021, Colgate has introduced 3 new crystal toothpastes, blue, white crystals, blue crystals, and so on. So they still keep on publicizing it. Okay. Or Colgate White, plain toothpaste. So that is also been advertised today. Okay, Colgate Smiles. So if Colgate can do it for their product, why can't we scientists sell our own products? So you have to do it periodically, that these are the things which are coming up. So for us, the bulletin boards are this ResearchGate, or bulletin boards are LinkedIn, bulletin boards are so that whenever a context comes, You need to publicize your items. You have to do that. There's nothing to feel shy or anything, or Facebook or anything.
Yeah, so that comes to our next question, is that how important is a good research network, and is it necessary? And because you have told that publishing by yourself, publishing at your media, on your social platforms, is a part of publication. So why to be shy about it? But many people think that it is a show off. So what is your take on that?
I think it is not a show off. Then it's like we need to take this publication as a business, because this is our business. We are not doing any charity. We are publishing. This is a part of our task. So and the paper is our product. So you have to sell your product, okay? Because that is the product which you have prepared is publicly funded. Think about it. So this is a point which I want to emphasize. Because you are using the public money, you are producing a paper, and you have to advertise that work so that this work does a benchmark to the societal needs. Okay, so you have to do that benchmarking. It's not a show off. By no means it is show off. It is a
Yes.
requirement. People want to know that what I have done. For example, I've been working on understanding the arsenic mobilization, what mechanisms steer the arsenic mobility in groundwater system. Yes, if people try to forget, so then we have to bring it again. We have to bring again and again and try to discuss it. And then we talk about the sediment color tool. Again, we have to come up again and again that this is a sediment color tool. Now this has been the results that we want to. Of course, that because with time, some of the issues get faded. So we need to revitalize those faded items. It's like painting a wall. You don't do a permanent painting. You need to repaint the walls.
Yeah, I mean, that today it makes a bit more sense to me, because if I need to find a target audience, so if I work on hydrogeochemistry or water quality, I know that my personal Facebook network will have more those people who are my collaborators, who are my the people who is working in that field. So if Elsevier will publish, which they publish maybe 1,000 or millions or the 100,000 in a day, they will not come to know that, okay, I published them. But people argue that you should publish that in LinkedIn or ResearchGate, not on Facebook. What is your take on that?
Here again, I will also get into this. It's also a trend that you make people know about what, because not every person on your Facebook link are on your LinkedIn network, or not all LinkedIn Facebook or LinkedIn people are in your research network, right?
Yes,
so
yes, yes.
all the things that must act parallelly, so that you have to outreach has to be maximized. So that is the principle. You have to have a maximized outcome, outreach. So use any platform. Even for example, that the Loop, for example, in what Frontiers has come up with, and then we also have so many others. So we need to do.
No, what is Loop? What is Loop?
Loop is from Frontiers.
So
Frontiers.
How does it work?
It's the similar thing, like this. So it Loop gathers information from the same database.
So actually, I'm really, I mean, we are talking these are the pertinent issues, and people can take. I know that some of my students are very shy about it. Even the other day there was a MTech defense happening, and a committee member told my student that why you hide your publication, put it at the back of your dissertation, so that because that dissertation going to be remain in the library. The coming student will get the inspiration from that this person before submission has published. So that will work as a inspiration for them and catalyst for them. So you should not do that. So, but by personal choice, some people are like, if I will send them that, okay, congratulations, you got the publication, they put it right away. Some they don't hide. So in that perplexity, I think if the publication means anything, it means you have done some work and you deserve to publicize it. Its name itself says publication. Of course, you cannot boast something about it without peer review. So if it is peer reviewed, means it is stamped as well. So once it is stamped, whether once it is done, why not
Yes,
to
I think
send across?
I think here I would like to think about, I'd like to point out that in the Swedish system, for example, we have with the papers, published papers, or manuscripts.
Mm-hmm.
And the PhD thesis is a summary of all those things. Okay, that's a standard PhD in Sweden. Okay, now if we look into that thing perspective, so we have a monography is also allowed, but it is strongly discouraged, and it's for very specific disciplines. Now, this gives why it is so, because if the papers are published, then it has a quality assurance stamp on it, has at least reached 2 reviewers or peers or 3 peers, whatsoever be the case. So if a thesis has 4 papers, all of them published, so we expect that 4 into 2, at least peer reviewed by 8 persons have gone through it, the content of the thesis, right? So there you have already a screening, a stamp of quality is there. Okay. So then the question comes kappa. Now there is a growing concern how you are stitching these different, weaving these papers together. In what what sort of originality we are actually now discussing about what should be the content of the kappa, and to what extent the kappa should, this the summary should have the similarity with the papers, right? So that your papers are not, because there are some ongoing questions about, since we are having institutional collaborations with different multi-authored papers for PhDs also. So although the main the PhD student is the first author, but you have a multitude of other subordinating authors. So the question is, to what extent it is justified? Although now it is justified in the credit author statement that who has done what. So the question comes that how do we really see that? So I think in a way, having the PhD papers in the thesis should be mandatory. It's not a question of willingness or wishing. It should be mandatory. If you are published, you have to append it, so that in a thesis, so that a reader or the examiner can at least have a direct first-hand look into it. Because I have seen a couple of papers from recently from ISSAC Javad's thesis from Pakistan. So it had that paper which was published in the thesis. So it should be a must. You must have it.
Yeah. So I mean, of course, this is a part of course, we will cut down in other portion, but this is because it's getting very interesting. You said that you want to talk about that is everything is publishable, whether everything should be published, and in that case, many times people respond to differently to an unrealistic number. I can tell you my own example, and I do not shy away, because the entire idea of opening this podcast is to bring the people, bring these things to out there to enhance the learning, community learning. You know that what separates a human being from the animal is community learning. We pass on our knowledge to the next generation, and that's why we could develop what animal could not have. Otherwise, animal also have acquired the lot of information during their lifetime, but they do not transfer it to the next generation. Otherwise, genetically, they do not have a school where they
don't
just
have a recording.
So
sometimes, yes, absolutely.
So I can tell you that my professor, my first postdoc was in Korea, and Professor Kang-Joo Kim used to tell me that, look, 4 papers a year is a good number. And because, but of course, that should not include review one. Review, if you want to do it additionally. But 4 original papers are a good number. Then I grown, yeah, if you want to say something, you can say it.
Manish, I think, Manish, during that time, writing 4 papers, I mean, if you think about, I'm getting back to Dr. Banerjee's time, when I was talking, that you write a paper, you stencil type them, Okay, original rough and
Yeah, so I mean,
and then itself
you are talking about the same thing that is happening with the calculation of Gavaskar, Tendulkar, and Virat Kohli, because when Gavaskar was batting, the captain can put fielder anywhere. When Tendulkar was batting, there was like only 15 overs they have to be in within a certain distance. They cannot go in the boundary because otherwise he will be out by catching out. And now in Virat Kohli time, there is a 25 overs. You cannot put look, this is so so this is a same kind of analogy that Professor Banerjee used to type by handwriting and make the diagrams and send by SIP. Then Professor Prosun has come, who had the computer to type, but still he has to send by SIP. But then Dr. Kumar came, who published first paper with just submitting online. I remember that when I talked, I talked to environmental geology. I want to publish it, submit it. Tell me how to do that. They said, "Oh, wait, in a week or two, we will open. We are going online, so you submit there." I also remember that it was his third paper in their online history that I submitted to that journal, because I knew that from this time it is going to be online. So I know that is not comparable, and that condition I am not talking about, and that is well deserved. So today's 100 paper.
No, but the Manish, the thing which I was trying to say, that our 4 paper is, if each paper takes 3 months of time, so 4 into 3, 12 months in a year. So if you do that calculation, so if you have for the preparations of a manuscript, and then from manuscript to revision, all online and not all physical in a hard copy. So this entire process, each paper would take 6 months, and then a galley proof will come with that pink colored stamped paper, the old age paper things. So those things will cover 6 months. So that 4, I think now we have the 4 into 10, at least 10. So it should be 40 papers.
No. That is also, so what I was telling, that how the progression happens. I just talked to you in 2009 when I talked. This was told to me by Professor Kangzuki. Then I asked them in 2012 and 13. I talked to another eminent person, and I asked, tell me the 4 impact factor journal or 12 1 impact factor journal. So he said 12 1 impact factor journal. So which one will be more? You will value more. So he said 1 impact factor 12 is more valuable than the 3 impact factor 4. So I said, why? He said that because it shows that 12 times you have been rigored, you have been asked questions, you defended your work, and so your experience to do that rigor or do that norms is much better than the other people who has published in the 4 paper in 3 impact factor journal. So that has happened. Then in 2014, 15, I published around 15 papers. And 16. But then I met one person and I asked, how many papers did you publish in a year? He gave me a number. He is also Indian origin, working abroad. So he gave me a number. Actually, I wanted to boast about my publication, but he gave me a number that I didn't tell his. So he came up with 30 plus some number. And that time I thought that if he can do, why not we can do? And then in this lockdown, we happened to cross that number what he has given. Now people look at it at different perspectives. So how do you, of course, you said that 40 papers may be possible, but how do you look at this?
I look at it into 3 aspects. One thing is it's also a necessity. If you have 4 projects, for example, 4 projects, if you can come up with, and you have PhD students, and collaboration. So I think it's not 100% what you are doing from one single project. These are all outcomes from different projects. So your outcomes are fully legitimate. So you must do it. Okay. So obviously, for example, now if all my Tanzanian students publish 4 papers. Now 2 papers have now come back to back now. Okay, 3 or 4. So that those will come automatically. That will add up to the pool of 2021 papers. So that way you are increasing. So it's not only it's the number of commitments you have and publication from on the basis of your research commitments. So that's how I see it. And the one thing is your own research commitment, and second thing is collaborative commitments. So commitments on collaborations. So you are teaming up with other people. You are trying to generate. You are jointly collaborating on writing, collaborating. So that enhances the number of papers, obviously. And there is nothing to feel bad or to answer someone. Yes, we have.
Yeah, actually, somebody recently in an interview told me that, oh, you published in last 3 years 100 papers. So it means 36 months by 100. It means and now he has calculated per day or per month paper and like that. I said no, please don't calculate.
So what? So what is what? Yes.
No, so I said, please do not calculate that way. Just tell me that how much do you expect from a PhD work, 4 or 3 or 5? So if I have you see my entire publication, which is around reaching 140, 150. So and I guided 8 PhD students. So 8 PhD students. If each PhD, if good PhD, then it should produce 5. Then 8 into 5 is 40. I guided 25 master's dissertation. If they produce only 1, then it becomes 25. So then 25 plus 40 is 65. And if I spend as a postdoc and PhD and masters, you can add up that number. And please come up with that, and then tell me that where you see the abnormality. So the production year can be other thing. People do not have time to see the sampling or anything, but of course they are very good at making judgment. And of course people good at finding something out of nothing. But yeah, it's nice to see that you are not from that crowd, and you feel that this should be done, this can be done, and that is why I am also happy.
And
that
I think this should be I mean it's a corporate social responsibility, like it's also a scientific social responsibility to publish. Yes.
Yeah. So that is
that this is one thing which I would like to see. That I was just, curiously enough, I was looking into the science citation Google citation index of faculties from, because in Google, each and every person, if you're affiliated to the organizations, you can also see the organizational profile Google citations, and from there you can look into the total number of citations from each company of the public. Like for example, at KTH, for example, my total publication citation is I'm now standing at 29th or 29th, probably 29th person in the entire KTH. Okay, so if we go from my Google Scholarly. So, but the question is that in many parts of the country, we are not only publishing less, but our works are being cited less. This is a point of huge concern, because the question is that even if you publish less, fine, no problems, but your publication must have that depth which warrant wide citations that you are working.
Yeah, definitely. And I think now the more you are explaining, the more I am getting used to this conversion of yours about not 40 papers, 4 into 10 times, because yes, last 2 decades we have seen phenomenal change on the process, the speed of the process. The 21 days, if you will not review, 22nd day, the editor will unassign you. So such kind of things are happening very fast, and this is really, I understand. And the citations, I'm of course you have kept the eyes on my thing, but I also feel that whenever I write a paper, I see this aspect, that why one should cite my paper, why one should read my paper. And that's why if I am the corresponding author or the first author or those things, I put that element somewhere in the paper, whether it is in abstract or figure or in a conclusion, in highlight,
Yes.
so that to make them appeal that what is done basically. Otherwise, many, so the utility of the paper, I think every writer should keep in mind. That is the one of the aspect that we can do. Yeah, I mean, now moving to the, of course, we already have spent almost 2 hours. Whether, how to keep a good research network, because I know that you have a lot of them and every of them you take care of it. I don't know why every networks are happy with you. So, I mean, how much time you have to support all of them, but how to keep a good research network, and is it necessary?
There is a proverb: if you have a base, if your base is strong, all structures are strong. So you need to have a sound base on both that. And I mean, in this case, base strong, I mean that the scientific base strong and the content base. Right. For example, I mean, if you think in my trajectory of my career in such, when I first started working in 2000 or 99, 2000, started working internationally, I didn't bother about the Swedish local scientific networking. Okay. So I was not in with the complying with the internal Sweden needs, that Sweden didn't know about who is Prosun, and so on and so forth. So that was the period when I really branched out outside Sweden so that we have our network. So then you need to stabilize that. What happened? How we made the stabilization? We made this then together with Joshan. We had this international congress. The on arsenic in the environment. That was one of the outcomes. And then we also had this in Geological Society, International Geological Congress arena, where we are organized 2 times. We were on this where we had, that was the time, that was the period when we first came in contact with international audience, like people like Maria Armienta Hernandez. So Maria Armienta we met in 2000, and that is today how what the relation we have with Maria Armienta comes days back to then. And then we had even with Ravi Naidu, for example. Ravi Naidu we had met in Bangladesh for the first time with a collaborative network. So you can have these sort of network which really makes one. And right, the latest one is the Environmental and Health Science Consortium, with Joseph Centeno, which is the offshoot from International Medical Geology Association, Manish. Okay, so these are the things. So we have these baseline networks, and you try to reinvent. It's not reinventing the wheel. You have to extend the wheels so that more wheels keep on growing, churning together. When the mother wheel moves, your extra wheels.
A kind of watch. So every parts of it is reflecting, and then only two it is shown by only 2 spike, or
yes,
the maximum
exactly.
3 needles. Otherwise, but it to make that 3 things moving, maybe your reputation, your publication, your output, the many other things, many connected things has to move. Very nice analogy.
So I think this was one quite important. And I also met a very good people before also, that Jerome Niagu, for example, I can name one person, was a former editor-in-chief of Science of the Total Environment. Jerome, when we wrote our first, and when we wrote to Jerome, he used to have a textbook series on what is it? Trace metals in the environment. Trace elements in the environment book in the Elsevier series. So then I wrote to Jerome that we need to come up with a volume of arsenic. Can we do that? So Jerome said, why not? You start doing it. So then we have that contract, which is that arsenic in soil and groundwater by geochemical interactions, that volume. So then, I mean, Jerome was a guy who, and I said, Jerome, can we collaborate on writing a index chapter on the subject? And say, of course. Then I gave those strategic. Then it became ReAcTT at all, because then I gave the wheel to ReAcTT, that you be the first author. So that I'm not, although the idea came from me, but I want you to try, because then the chapter should be known by your name. So your participation is also ensured. Like my first paper, which I wrote with Professor Kazimuddin, because Mutin has followed, if you follow the trend, that his name is always involved as a co-author in none of the publication which he is on the forefront. Then I said no. Within the Swedish collaboration which we publish, Mutin's paper, he will be the first author. So that paper will be identified by his name. I put Kazimuddin Ahmed Atal first paper, not my name as well. Okay.
So I think that is the tricks and
strategic naming. Mahanta et al. Paper which I made with Chandan, with our collaborative work in Assam. That one was Mahanta et al. So that is where it is important that we need to give emphasis on the regional nodes, so their participation, their involvement, so that it serves two purposes. If somebody who doesn't wish to cite my work, but when they see Ahmed et al., they get fascinated that yes, it is Professor Mutin's paper. So you are citing.
Great.
So at the other end, fact, and so you have that thing that if you have, and also it's due to diverse reasons that you have access to different papers, we have co-citations and everything. So it's beneficial, and I really strongly feel that we must promote. It's not time for us to promote myself. It is time to promote our collaborators. That's my philosophy at the Brown.
Great. I mean, that is, some of the outcome, this will be one of the key outcome that you are assisting. Because keeping a research network satisfied and make them feel that this is their work is very, very key thing for the progress. And you know that this world work on a peer review system based, like peer review based system. So at the end of the day, one has to, we cannot evaluate our performance by ourselves, but somebody else.
Yeah, and then secondly, another thing, each of us are having so many shortcomings. We can only bridge these shortcomings by working together.
Your any advice for handling a student or being a teacher?
My approach towards handling a student comes from, or is basically directly governed through how I liked to be governed while I was a student. Okay, so it's a direct reflection and coupling. So I wish to have much more freedom, much more own decision-making system, good amount of. So I think this individualism should be respected, and all the professors should give really a good. Although maturity takes time, so you need to have that patience within the students, so that you cannot get a high quality thing overnight. Even if for specific things to mature, it takes few weeks, say few years for a 4 years period in Sweden is good enough time. But then again, if you're doing research capacity building, it can take somewhat longer. But a mango cannot ripen before its own time. It needs that incubation time. Mango, you have to fight for the mango to ripe. So we need that time. So you have to give the student time so that he matures. Even myself, I never used to utter the word, never used to say, Professor Banerjee, I want to do my PhD defense. Unless and until I think December 89, when we had the first 7th National Sedimentological Conference in Delhi, in the university, where I first gave my lecture. That was the time period I thought, yes, I've matured enough to give a PhD defense. It comes from an inner feeling that unless you have that feeling, I was quite skeptical. Even for the docent lecture here in Stockholm, I was also on the same boat. Unless I felt myself that I can defend myself, I can present it in a very convincing manner, talking with people, in a you know it, but to say it with authority, it needs experience. So that's gave up that you should do the things yourself, try to get it So that's what I would do, even though all the supervisors also, please do not dictate the students.
Okay, fine. So this is the last part, part C. This should go very rapid because here is now. I want to know some of the. Let's just start from your favorite. Your most favorite food. Ilis mas?
Favorite food?
Yeah.
Ilish, of course, and also we have a recipe in called biryani. So we have
so biryani. Yeah,
biryani.
Yeah. Drink?
And tomato biryani is also quite interesting.
Okay. What about drink? Your favorite drink?
Drink, and I think
you can tell me brand also, no problem.
There are multiple. Jack Daniel is quite interesting in quite and what else? I think that's all. And then
yeah. What is your most favorite possession?
My mobile.
I mean, so this is BlackBerry or which one? iPhone.
No, Samsung.
Samsung.
Ultra.
Yeah. So yes. What is I know that you have been very trendy about your mobile. I mean, the one gadget where you invest, I have been seeing that you are keeping your mobile update, not like somebody who do not want to pay for his mobile. Is it right?
Yes. I think mobile phones, cars, these are recurring expenses.
I mean, these are investment, not the expenses. This is investment.
Recurring investment.
What about your favorite book?
Well, that's a good question. No, I don't know whether.
You can say hydrogeology book, Darcy, or I don't know that. Post.
No, actually, this is a question. I mean, if you think about a storybook, then I don't know when I have last read a storybook. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah. So okay, so it's like similar.
The books which you read, you write, which you edit. I've not yet written a book, to be honest. And that is another project, lifetime project. Perhaps in a later stage, one can write.
What about the favorite actors?
Well, my favorite actors were two major extenders, Amitabh Bachchan. So like him, then in the Western scenario, in Western Robert, what is it?
De Niro?
Robert De Niro.
Yeah. And what about the actress? I mean, the actor female.
In Indian cinema, I don't know. Now there are so many new actresses, but if you think traditionally, I used to like a lot of Sharmila Tagore, the Jaya Bachchan, those only super, and then of course Suchitra Sen, legendary figures, and then of course Uttam Kumar also. Remember.
Okay, so what is your favorite cuisine?
Favorite cuisine? Indian cuisine.
After that?
After that, I like some foods of Middle East, kebab, etc.
Okay.
Falafel.
Any restaurant that you like because you are a good traveler?
I used to like this restaurant, Vapiano. Have you
been there?
Vapiano where? Vapiano is in entire Europe.
Is a chain?
It's a chain in Europe, but I don't know after the pandemic what has happened.
Okay.
Because Vapiano disappeared from Stockholm after this corona.
Oh my God.
But it was really a good one.
And trip, because you have taken a lot of trips. So what are any trip in the past been very, very special?
Well, all my trips have been special because one very special was my last trip before the pandemic was the trip to Barranquilla. It was Barranquilla in Colombia, and it was famous. It was memorial in two ways, because right from the beginning, from the time when I boarded from Stockholm to Bogota to Barranquilla, and when I landed in Barranquilla at 12 o'clock in the night, my baggage did not land there. So I was only with the shirt and a pant. And then almost, thank God, I had some small items in my hand baggage, which came
Yeah,
with
so
me.
always we should keep something in handbag.
So
It's not
exactly. So
like
I had those things with me. But then, on that trip, while I'm coming back from the airport to the hotel, I met a friend, and his name was Jose Arturo. Arturo, actually, he's actually IT professor of Internet of Things. And he actually invited me, and I gave a talk in Latin America on 7th of May. So and you meet a person, go to make a good rapport, and you extend your network. And he gave a talk at his institute in Mexico, and it was simultaneously translated, relayed over, I think, 800 to 900 people in different institutions in Latin America. I think that was a very good friend for that. Means you gather a good friend. Jose Arturo, he's also on our Facebook. You can search him, so you can see that.
The
okay,
one question is that what if, because everybody's life, not everything will work all the time. So how do you handle the pressure, and what you do if things doesn't work?
Well, it's something which is really, I don't know, it happens all the time. If things go good at work, something goes wrong at home, or vice versa, So it's not that you get everything running perfectly at both ends. So you need to see the pressures and how the things are. But at both the ends, you need to take it easy. Don't react. So that's my mantra, that don't react. Everything will settle down with time, so that you keep on doing your work. So don't deviate from it. It's like a bird which is looking for food or something, that your vision is only on that thing. Keep your eyes on that and act accordingly. So don't deviate. So my suggestion will be that don't get distracted with external pressure.
Don't react, even if the channel is react. Yeah.
And so that's I think one thing. And that's what also balances your family life. So these are all consequent. Yeah. You can have problem with your superior in your office. So you don't have to fight with them. You can give it a time. Take time out. To retake the discussions, and if you need. So that's where.
Yeah, but sometimes I do also felt and saw that sometimes fight is unavoidable. Sometimes you have to fight, and fighting for the right cause is important. And there, Gita.
No, actually, yes, Manish, that this is a very pertinent for fighting. Fighting. It's not actually fighting what is a per se, but some things you see that your things are going wrong. But then I feel that yes, even at work, if I say this thing that we are not, but then how the people will take. So you need to wait for that opportunity, because there is every time there is a one single maximum benefit at a point of time where you will speak, and that will be most beneficial.
So what about the trip? Your any bucket list? You talked about writing book. Any thing that you want to accomplish in next 5 to 10 years?
Manish, I think some of the things I need to take up with you also. New things and new books. Some of the things which these things should be indispensable things, which people must. You have to set the priorities and do the things which people require it all the time.
Yeah, see, actually this podcast itself is like whole day today I am sitting 5 hours of interviewing, But I felt that there is a need of such thing, and that's why I am committed, and I came here. So of course we will be having some more. I mean, the ideas now I am coming up, and I feel that now my growth from here might be that I may resign as a faculty or may end my career as a faculty and take up as an institution director and try to the meander the lot of rivers rather than being just a river. Not, I mean, irrespective of how mighty river I am or I can become, but I want to be that morphological, geomorphological, environmental force which helps the river to be on their path. And I know that there are so many rivers, perpetuating rivers are in India, and a lot of talent and human resource which are finding job from here and there and being so that's why I may take up those kind of challenges. And yeah, so there I will be needing a mentor like you who thinks 40 is very normal. 40 papers in a year.
40, yes, 40 is a very chilly number.
Yeah. So what about? So what about your? So this is all. If just this section says being human. So I want to know your 3 major strengths or anything that you are not good at.
I'm not good at planning.
No, you're okay. Whatever you say.
Planning means, I mean, that's what my wife says. I mean, what I hear.
No, wives are not a good judge. don't take their opinion.
No. I mean, it depends on the priorities. Planning means priorities. So you prioritize. If you're giving priorities, planning of what? Work planning, yes, it's planning. Time planning is universal, whether it is work or at home. So if you are not a good time planner, then you can neither plan your work at work, plan your time at work, nor at home. So these are the generic qualities. So planning time is one important thing that which I have to do still better. I need to do.
And what are your 3 strengths? Your 3
strength is that my perseverance, my what do you say? I mean, one of the strengths is that I'm quite timid. I mean, envious, quite determinative. Yes, so I want to do it, so I will do it. Okay, so that's the strength. If I think about that's like you dream it, wish it, do it. So that sort of a concept.
Good. So actually, I wanted to know about your quote and mantra. So you already have told that. Can you repeat it once again?
Dream it, wish it, dream it, and do it.
Wow. Can we have very quick take on balancing family life and professional ambitions?
It's a tough thing, but yes, we need to balance things, and I think we need to be a bit more tolerative to each other at every point of time. So it's
because
you get support all the time. I mean, even for example, actually in Sweden, it's a bit difficult during the summertime in Sweden. Everyone are very much of extreme pressure on free. I mean, it's very logical from the Swedes because they don't see sun during the entire part of the year. But we who come from outside, we have been in India, for example, more than 30 years, and then if you see sun, and then you think about holidaying on when you're sunny, that sounds very absurd for me, to be honest. So what is new? But for a native Swedish, it's new, of course, because they don't see sun throughout the year.
So last question, what if you were not an academician or researcher? What you would have been?
I think another very important thing I missed in the beginning. I was very fond of radio mechanism and electronics. When we were studying in class 10 or 9th and 10th in the new curriculum, we had vocational training in our course program, in our program. I opted for radio mechanism and electronics. I used to make transistors before,
Wow.
So then I used to play. I started learning sitar because my mother was a musician. So at least I could start something doing with music. So because some of the ragas and all those things which are already in my mind, so it was just starting. But then with studying geology and music, they don't go hand in hand, or at least it didn't go hand in hand. In my case. So although I can play, but now it's that the fingers get choked,
Yeah, so I mean, this brings to us at one end of our conversation. And what can I tell you is that I didn't know that you can make or you were making transistors. I didn't know that you have, in order to keep research network going, you put your the collaborators first and ahead. And there is a very good idea about it. There has been I didn't know how it opened. I mean, some effort may not give you fruit just right away, like your journal. You tried to open in 2006, 7, but it gets sold, and suddenly after 5 years, you got a call. So labor never goes in vain is also so much important from that perspective. A lot of things we came to know about your journey. I am really, I have seen you that how much respect you have been paying, because Professor Gunnar Jax just lost his life recently, and you have dedicated sessions and those things wherever the platform allowed you. I have seen you doing it for the Professor Dipankar Chakravarti, one of the very dearest idol of mine also. So the setting the example, and because people follow you, and it was nice to know your idea about your publishing your publications or publishing your effort, and also that how the desk rejection has to be implemented, and the acknowledgement section can be critical and should be critical from that point of view. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation. It was a pleasure talking. I don't know that when I will end the process of knowing you more, because every time we interact, I know some another dimension of yours. So I have been very happy of that.
So thank you, Manish. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be on this platform of seasoned scholars. And we look forward to hear from you and your new role and organization. More.
Yeah. So now, if it is in, can you tell that our audience, if they like this video, they can subscribe this channel. The channel name is going to be ReAcTT. ReAcTT is RE for research, AC for academics, and TT for training and teaching. So can you just
So I think that if you really like the series, to all our viewers, if you like the series, please subscribe to this ReAcTT chain so that you can get impressed with more on the visions and missions and visions, and also the aptitude and attitudes of different researchers, and how you can try to implement them in your life. I mean, take my example, how I took the initiative right at my tender age from my professors in India, Professor D.M. Banerjee and Professor Meher Deb, and then back in home, Professor Gunnar Jax, and how we integrated. And not only that, it's a continuous process. So giving respect, and that's one thing which I learned even from Swedish system, that you have to pay respect to get respect. So this is the mantra. So I think you will get this sense through this series of films which will be coming. So thank you.
Thank you very much.